If you have heard all of the horror stories of what's coming down the pipe for next year when it comes to traffic, you're going to want to tune into this week's episode with Carly Campbell. She has a course called Pinterest String Strategies, and it is a total game changer when it comes to driving traffic to your blog with Pinterest. Hello, my creative friend. Welcome to Creatives on Fire. Are you oh so tired of the constant struggle to keep up on social media? Do you wish you had more time freedom to actually be creative? Well, listen, I'm Melanie Ferguson, a creative business coach and multi-six-figure online creative business owner who's made so many mistakes growing my blog and social media to hundreds of thousands of followers, only to look up and have very little to show for it. Once I put my head down and added a few key systems and strategies, everything changed for me. In this podcast, I'll be sharing my proven systems and shortcuts, turning those followers into paying customers. So if you're ready, let's take your online business to the next level and leave all the overwhelm behind. Welcome back to the podcast. This week, I am so over the moon excited to introduce you guys to Carly Campbell. She has an amazing course called Pinterest String Strategies. I hope I could say that right. And she's going to share with us all about Pinterest. So Carly, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I am excited to be here. Talking about Pinterest is one of my favorite things to do because Pinterest it has changed my life. Isn't that a ridiculous statement?
No, it's not. And I meant to say, okay, let me back the truck up real quick. So Carly is a mama, just like a lot of you guys listening. She has two kiddos. She's a busy homeschool mom of a 5 and 6-year-old, all the way from Alberta, Canada. Don't we love technology?
It is amazing. And it's amazing that, the technology that we have gives us this ability to work anywhere from anywhere. I never imagined that I would live in Alberta and earn in US dollars. That's actually a big bonus for the Canadian bloggers out there, so we can earn in US dollars.
I love it. I love it. So Carly, tell us a little bit about your journey, because I know you started blogging and then all of a sudden you were really good at Pinterest. So tell me how that worked.
So I way back in the day, it was really late in 2015. I purchased Elite Blog Academy, which was a course at the time. I believe it's retired now. That it was kind of the whole how to blog package, but it didn't actually go very specifically into any of the platforms or apps that you would be using. It would say learn about this thing. This is where you implement this thing. And so I was in a little Facebook accountability group for the course. There was a number of us there, and we decided that we would divide and conquer what we consider the social medias. And we lumped Pinterest in there at the time. Pinterest is not really a social media, but we lumped it in there at the time. And we all took one of them and said we would learn that one well, and we would come back to the group and teach to everybody else in the group how to do it. And so I was researching Pinterest. And as I was researching Pinterest, I was applying what I was learning. And this wasn't, a 1-week project where we would learn and conquer a social media in 1 week. We were going to learn it. So over the course of 3 or 4 months, while I was learning and applying, I was seeing my blog page views just grow and grow and grow. And it was so clear to me that this was the answer to all of my blogging questions with Pinterest. And so that I wrote Pinterest strategies for those girls and never looked back.
And just so that you guys know, I have been following Carly since pretty much the beginning of my blogging journey, which is almost 4 years now. So I love, love, love her strategies. And I think that she is really pure in her concepts. She really puts it simple to you. She doesn't make it confusing, because when I first started pinning, when I first started blogging, I didn't really understand what a pin was. I was like, is that a thumbtack? I mean, I see a thumbtack when people talk about pins, but what the heck is a pin? And I was like, I have no concept. So Carly makes it really simple. Carly, tell us a little bit about the breakdown of what people can expect if they were to learn from you when it comes to Pinterest string strategies.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for your kind words. I I'm not a type A person. And so I have a really hard time laying out information like step 1, step 2, step 3. So pinterest strategies, as you see it now, is, it is years and years of effort to have it where it's something that we hope that anybody at any point in their journey, we don't consider it a beginner course, but we also don't consider it an advanced course because it does start from the beginning of a journey. We will explain to you how to set up your account and start. But if you have been using Pinterest for a few years, I believe that there are tips in there that you will not have read anywhere else. So what you can expect from finishing strategies, and what I would hope that everyone would take away as we grow, is the correct or a correct process for growth on Pinterest that, when implemented from the beginning of your journey, we expect it to take anywhere from 6 to 12 months to really start to see traction. So that's number one thing that I want everybody to know, is that this is not something that you start doing, you start putting up pins and you get traction tomorrow. That's not how it works. You're nodding along like you've had that experience.
Oh, 100%. And everybody wants the magic bullet and they're like, oh, well, this isn't working. So they stop and switch to the next hottest thing. And I want you to know that this course, like she said, can be for beginners, where she literally will walk you through like how to set up your Pinterest the correct way. And I do believe there is a correct way, and then, or a best way. And then she talks about the anatomy of a pen and exactly what the function of a pen is and some ideas of ways to use pens. And then she goes deeper for the person who's been around a while. So you can take the course in like sections. And I'll tell you, I have gone back to it and back to it and back to it. And she updates it every year as well, which is super huge because there's so many changes all the time. And I just think that it's hands down one of the best ways to grow your readership to your blog and really get to the point where you can get some of that ad monetization everyone's looking for. I know that it was super key with me getting onto Mediavine. So.
Okay. Oh, great. That's fantastic to hear. And you just said something that made me think, and I don't know if I hope it's okay if we touch on this, but over the last, I don't know, 4 years, there was a time back in the 2016s, the 2015s, when Pinterest was a lot different than it is now. I don't like to use the word easier anymore. Some people have thrown around the word easier, but I don't like to use the word easier anymore because, when I'm honest, Pinterest is still very easy for me. I still get really good traffic from Pinterest, and it doesn't take this astronomical effort or luck that a lot of people seem to be looking for. It's like you said, Melanie, that they try it for 3 months, it's not working, so they quit. And of course that doesn't work. But Pinterest kind of got this bad rap, like Google was the way forward. But I know literally hundreds of bloggers that have started in the last 4 years that still have seen really fantastic success through Pinterest. It doesn't have to be, Google only. In my opinion, you can have a business that is completely Pinterest if you're in the right niche. Let me also add that there are niches that will never be Pinterest friendly.
I agree. I think that a lot of the listeners are home decor, DIY, craft bloggers. So this is 100%. Yes. Great. And mom, lifestyle, all the good stuff. So tell us, like, if you were just getting started with Pinterest, what would be your best advice?
Use Pinterest like a user. And don't, as you go through your blogging journey and as you get into it, don't make the mistake of shifting entirely from content planning strategy, based on things that you're interested in, that you see. When you use Pinterest, you will get an idea of what is doing well in Pinterest, of what can do well in Pinterest. Once you shift your content planning strategy to what I think I need to write for Google or Pinterest or whatever, you lose something. I mean, to this day, 7 years on, I still get the best traffic to the things that, as a user, I would have engaged with on Pinterest. New things or old things, both. The best traffic comes to the things that I know a Pinterest user is going to engage with based on my own experience.
That kind of circles back to something that I always preach, which is spend more time creating content than consuming content. So we get on this little hamster wheel and we get over there on Pinterest and we are using it and consuming it. And we're seeing all these other people's ideas and they're not our ideas. And yes, while they may have popped off, they may have been something that was timely at that time for them and maybe not timely for you now. But had you have stuck with creating your own content, you might have been better off. So I love that.
Absolutely. And there is absolutely no denying that Pinterest growth, consistent Pinterest growth is more common with accounts that do consistent content creation. Like that is a trend that we literally, there's so many things where I say, oh, well, correlation doesn't equal causation. We can't say that for sure that's related. Consistent content creation, providing that it's Pinterest content creation, is absolutely correlated with account growth.
So speaking of consistent, everyone wants to know, what does that look like today?
Like as far as pinning on Pinterest,
Mm-hmm.
well, we want those new URLs. So actually creating the new posts on your website, that does not have to be on a schedule. That doesn't have to be once a week or twice a week. But I would like to see, and when I say as much as possible, that seems to stress people out. Like, I can't do as much as possible. If as much as possible for you is 3 new URLs a month, then that's fine. 3 new URLs per month is going to be better than 1 new URL every 6 months. It's better, right? So we're just aiming for better. And then when it comes to pinning, we would really like to see everybody pinning at a minimum 3 to 4 pins 3 to 4 times a week. And those should be new pins that Pinterest hasn't seen before. So it doesn't always have to be new URLs. It can be URLs to your old pin, mixed in with those new ones that you are putting out there. But at a minimum, 3 to 4 pins 3 to 4 times a week. And then with Pinterest, it is a matter of quality over quantity. But to a certain point, and everybody wants hard, fast rules. I can't give you hard, fast rules because there aren't any. To a certain point, quantity will give you an edge. So if you are doing 3 pins 3 times a week, you could increase your traffic potentially by doing 6 pins 4 times a week. That's not too many. I mean, once you have 400 URLs and you're not pinning those URLs over and over and over and over, you can do 15 pins 7 times a week and it's still not too many. It's too many when you're repeating your URLs daily. That's too much. Don't repeat your URLs every day. So there's no hard and fast rules, which makes it really hard. But these guidelines that we work inside of seem to apply across most niches that I work with.
I agree. And so when it comes to these pins that we're creating, the new ones, are you seeing more success with any specific type, like just image or text overlay or 1 word, 3 words? What are you seeing the most?
Well, that depends on how you measure success. And to me, success on Pinterest as a blogger is measured only by click-throughs to my account or to my blog. I'm sorry. Once they click through, once it's a page view that I can monetize. And so therefore, I would say that the most success currently we're seeing is coming from images with text overlay that prompt a click through. So we can't rely on, if you're just looking for views on Pinterest, I'm actually seeing the most views from images that don't prompt a click through, because that's what benefits Pinterest. Something that people will save for the idea on the pin. That benefits Pinterest. People don't leave their platform. They stay on the platform. Pinterest, has a longer session with that user. Good for Pinterest. So I'll see pins that don't prompt a click through with the information on the pin or the idea on the pin. I'll see those pins get hundreds of thousands of impressions, but they'll bring 180 click throughs. that's not worth my time to create those pins. When I do images with text overlay that do prompt a click through, even if they get a fraction of the impressions, which we often see, they will bring more click throughs. And so I spend about 95% of my effort on Pinterest creating images with text overlay that prompt a click through.
So explain to us a little bit about what that looks like. What does a prompt to click through look like on a pin?
A prompt to click through needs to explain to the reader that there's more on the other side of the pin for them. So, I mean, sometimes in some niches, the user intent when they come to Pinterest is to go find that information. You know, they search for a recipe or they'll search for a tutorial for a DIY project. It's not as much work in those niches to prompt the click through. How do we prompt a click through in niches where, you know, the person isn't necessarily looking for a recipe or they didn't come to Pinterest just to click through? Say, for example, in hairstyles, because this is an image where people are coming to Pinterest to look at images. So they're not coming to Pinterest to look at what's on the other side of the pin. They're coming to Pinterest to look at what's on the pin. It's much harder to prompt a click through in that niche. We need to think about how I'm going to let my reader know that there's more for them on the other side of this pin. And there's lots of ways that we can do that on Pinterest. So of course, we don't want to obscure the entire image in this situation because they're coming to look at the image, a small title across the bottom, 50, perfect hairstyles for women with round faces, 50 perfect hairstyles with bangs. Tell them there's more than just this one on the other side of the pin. We can do that with the title underneath the pin. Don't just let Pinterest pull in your blog title. You can target different titles. When you upload your own pins to Pinterest, you can target different titles in that pin creation tool. And that pin title will appear underneath your pin in lots of areas. So you can think about, what is this person who wants to see 50 different hairstyles with bangs, 50 different short hairstyles with bangs? They want to see this. What am I going to tell them in this title that's going to let them know there's more for them if they click? And so experiment with different titles. Experiment with questions to the reader. Do you ever feel like your house is a mess and you'll never get it clean? Things that they will say yes to often prompt a click through. Do you ever feel like your toddler will never learn to potty train? If they'll say yes to those things, that can prompt a click through.
So what would you say between your bio, your boards, and your pinning schedule would be like the most important part?
Pinning schedule. You can give Pinterest other information about yourself, and that's all well and good, but the content that you are putting out there for the user to find is the most important. And don't ever kid yourself. Your user is never going to your profile. Your user is never going to your boards to see, a fraction, maybe 1% of users will ever land on your, I do not even have one of those cover picture things on your profile. Mine's just like a blank gray box. Pinterest is always prompting me to upload something. I've never even uploaded anything there. And that doesn't affect my Pinterest account. I have 9 million monthly views on Pinterest and over 250,000 click-throughs a month, on the account. And I'm not even in an easy Pinterest niche. I'm still largely pinning in parenting, which we have seen there is traffic to be had in parenting. Absolutely. It's not the same as the traffic to be had in home decor and DIY and crafts and food. So, and I'm just doing just fine without paying any attention to my profile.
Exactly. And so with these new changes coming down with GA4 and the cookies going away in the beginning of next year, so I think that we're going to see a revolution with Pinterest. How about you?
Yes, I agree. I think that we've already seen an increase in the ease. I don't like the word ease again, but I'm going to use it. We've already seen an increase in the potential for Pinterest traffic over the past year, especially since Pinterest retired the Creators Rewards program last November, and then kind of pulled back on the idea of pins in March. My Pinterest traffic is double what it was a year ago. Double. That's not a small increase. Now, if I'm fair, we also stepped up publishing in part because, yes, I think that people are going to be turning back to Pinterest for real people ideas. If Google is going to be flooded with poor search results and AI search results, then Pinterest is going to be a place where people are going for their information. And if Pinterest is going to make it easier for us to get that information out to people, it's just the perfect storm for traffic. And it's been great this past year. I don't see that changing anytime over the next year. Pinterest's prerogative was a real big shopping push prior to November. We really saw them ease off that in November, and they shared that their prerogative now was premium advertisers. And that's really exciting to me because the average blogger is not going to be a premium advertiser, and they cannot fill their feeds with premium. So they still need us.
Awesome. That was my next question was, what are your thoughts on Pinterest ads?
For the average blogger, they are only worthwhile if you have a proven funnel. Like if you know that this amount of eyes on your page is going to result in this amount of income earned, then it can be worthwhile to promote a pin. But Pinterest focuses premium advertisers. They're not going to give you dirt cheap clicks. Some niches are better than others as far as cost, just like any other platform. If your RPMs are wild and you have a great Christmas pin that garners a lot of click-throughs, and you want to try promoting that for a couple days to see if the ad spend could be recouped just through traffic income, you can try it, but that's generally not a particularly high earner for most people, just traffic. So you really need that funnel that converts on the other side. Pinterest ads are a complicated beast. And so it's really good to look for a thorough resource on how to run them. And I don't offer that. Kate All has a really good one. Monica Rose used to have a great course on Pinterest ads, but I don't know if she does anymore. Maybe you have one that you recommend.
Yeah, there's a few out there that are super helpful. So let me ask you, this is a really basic question, but I think a lot of listeners might be new to Pinterest. So tell us, what is a good runway for pinning seasonal traffic? How much out would you pin something?
It can't be too soon. 1 year is not too soon. Like you get a lot of people talking about pinning 6 weeks out, 3 months out. You'll see these recommendations. But on Pinterest, and this kind of goes maybe beyond the scope of the conversation, but it's important to understand that our accounts, when you start a new account, you are not trusted, let's use the word trusted, by Pinterest at the same level as my, 8-year-old account that's been pinning for 8 years with hundreds of URLs. Your account is not as trusted. I can pin something 6 weeks out and get traction. It's almost impossible for a new account or a less trusted account. That account might be 3 years old, but it might be less trusted. It's going to be really hard for that account to pin something 6 weeks out and get traction. So very often when I'm pinning, I'm thinking to myself, like, maybe it's 6 weeks out, maybe it's 3 months out, whatever. I'm pinning and I'm thinking, maybe I'm pinning this for this year. Maybe I'm pinning this for next year. It is not uncommon to see last year's pins that I pinned 3 months out from the holiday last year be this year's most popular pins. And to realize then that those were pinned 15 months out. So it's never too late because, the closer we get to the holiday, get that content up. You're pinning for next year.
So if you create a pin for a URL, a new URL, and it's seasonal, say we're in October, so say it's December for Christmas, and you're pinning it today. When is too soon to pin that exact URL again?
Okay. I also believe that the answer to that probably depends on the account trust level. And therefore, we give a general recommendation that we feel is safe across the account trust level of 7 to 10 days. When I put out a brand new URL, I will often pin it on the same day twice. The first day it goes out, I'll pin it to my own board and a group board. Or if I have two of my own boards that are appropriate, I'll pin it with different images. So 2 different images to 2 different boards. And then I'll schedule it out in the Pinterest scheduler, the native Pinterest schedule. I'll schedule it out again for the end of next week and for 2 weeks from now and for 3 weeks from now. And then I'll let it sit. And if one of those starts picking up and doing really well, and those 4 have gone out, I will absolutely schedule another 2 out for that URL. If they don't do anything, I might let them sit longer.
And so on those 4, they're all 4 different images or just 2 different images?
4 different images.
Okay. So you're creating multiple for each. How many pins for each post?
In the beginning, when you publish a brand new URL, I usually start with 4 to 6.
Okay. And then you're pinning those out over the month-ish.
Yep.
And then you're letting it sit till next year, same time? Or, I mean, I guess it's seasonal, so you would.
Sometimes, if August rolls around and I think to myself, oh, this post did really well last year, I'm going to put out 2 more pins in August for this one right now. Because you really can't be too soon, right? They sit there, they steep in Pinterest, whatever they do. And so if more pins for a URL that did well is always a good idea.
But all fresh images.
Yeah. If it's been a year and I had an image that performed fantastically, don't tell anybody I said this, but I might pin that one again.
Gotcha. Perfect. Well, that is super helpful because I think a lot of us get kind of hung up on when are we supposed to pin again? We don't want to get in Pinterest jail. We don't want to be, shadow banned and in trouble or, our account closed because we've pinned too often the same thing. And sometimes it's confusing. Is it the same image, the same URL? What do we have to change?
Well, and when it comes to shadow banning, the thing that is really challenging is it doesn't seem to be, the rules are not the same for all accounts because we go back to that. And this trust factor that I talk about with your account, I mean, that's something that I've made up. Not really. I've seen references to it in the Pinterest engineering blog, but I'm making up the words that I'm using for this, not technical terms. But if Pinterest super trusts your account, you can get away with more than if Pinterest doesn't trust your account. Or if you've already got, and this is a term that I'm making up again, if you've already got 6 strikes against your account and 7 strikes is the limit, then if you do something that earns you a strike, you might be shadow banned versus if I do something that earns me a strike, I don't get shadow banned because it's only my 3rd strike. And so the rules aren't the same for everybody. And that's really, really hard to communicate and to put out guidelines that will keep everybody safe. And that's why we say, 7 to 10 days between URLs. If that's your only URL, 7 to 10 days is too soon. But, we're talking about for most people who are putting out new content all the time.
Gotcha. And so these are Carlyisms. I love it.
Oh, that's funny. I've never heard that before. That's what they are. Yeah, they're not Pinterestisms. There's nowhere that Pinterest does make it very clear that they don't want us repinning the same image over and over and over again. You can repin the same image, a year later. It's not going to get you in trouble. Repinning the same image a year later. That's not an instant flag. If you repin the same image every day, yeah, you can expect to get in trouble.
Gotcha. Okay. Any best practice advice to wrap us up?
Oh boy, we have covered a lot of it. I think something that is overlooked by a lot of people, especially, I don't know if we just get lazy or, some people haven't heard it from the beginning, but type your target keywords into Pinterest. See what populates in their drop down and use those words back to them. So if you type in toddler playroom organization ideas. And then Pinterest will give you this list of other words that go with these keywords. As many of them as you can use in your post, as many of them that are relevant, use those in your description. Provide Pinterest with the information it's looking for. And then, click on one of those searches that they have populated for you and scroll down on the page and you'll find another list of keywords just hidden in there in the pins, like button kind of. Take those keywords and use them back to Pinterest in your descriptions.
I love it. I love it. And so where are we at with hashtags?
They're not really. If you put a hashtag in there and it happens to hit a keyword that Pinterest is using, then you've just put more keywords in. And so you can see success with hashtags. Hashtags as a hashtag, they're not important.
Gotcha. Carly, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to share. Everybody, Pinteresting Strategies has really changed my blogging game as far as traffic to my blog goes. And I'm going to have a link for everybody down in the show notes if you want to check it out. Carly, where can we find you online?
So I actually don't have much for an online presence, but I do have a Facebook group called Blogging Like We Mean It. And you can just search for that on Facebook. And it's a private group, so you have to join to see the posts and stuff. But that is like the only place where I publicly talk about blogging online.
I'm in that group and it's fabulous. I'll put a link for that as well down in the show notes for you guys. Carly, you are always such a wealth of information and I super appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Melanie.
Bye. Thank you so much, my friend, for tuning in each and every week. If you learned something new or were inspired from today's episode, I would be incredibly grateful if you would take a minute and just leave a review. Bonus points if you share this episode by screenshotting it and tagging me on social at Creatives on Fire Podcast. I'll share you in my stories when you do. In the meantime, keep rocking your business and I'll meet you back here next Tuesday. And don't forget, no one else will ever be you. And that is your creative superpower.